Welcome back to ATHENASIA TV. I'm Laurent Timmermans, and today we are receiving Frederick Donnet, the Vice Chairman of the Belgian Club in Hong Kong. So it's a really interesting person we are receiving today because Frederick arrived in Hong Kong in 1988. So it was handover of Hong Kong to China. So we'll see a little bit what happened to Hong Kong over the last, how many years now?
Over 35 already.
Over 35 years here in Hong Kong. So we'll have like a big picture perspective on how Hong Kong works and what happened over the last few years. So thanks for coming today, Frederick. Maybe we can start with a bit of your history here, like your perspective on Hong Kong. Like since 1988, you have seen things. You have seen the handover of the brick to China. You have seen the SARS. You have seen the 2008 crisis. You have seen the protests. You have seen COVID. So can you tell us a little bit, like, what is your experience with all that?
Sure. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's good fun
welcome.
to come and have a chat with you about all that. And a small correction, I'm a co-chair of the Belgian Club.
Co-chair, what I said.
Vice
president.
So you rubbed my ego in the wrong direction.
Okay, so
no problem. It's very recent. Yeah,
we are Belgian. Like our ego is really thin.
Very thin. The kings of consensus. Yeah, you're right. I've been in Hong Kong for forever. Over 35 years. I arrived in 1988. Quite a coincidence to arrive here. And I came here for 1 year and decided to stay a bit longer, as you can see. And a lot of things happened here during my stay. And actually, I think the one that's probably the least important in my long history here is the handover of 1997. It was a big thing for Hong Kong because it went indeed from the Brits back to China. But my focus was much more on what happened in town here over that period. And at exactly the same time, it started with the Asian financial crisis, July 1997. That was a big shock. And then a bit after, we had what we thought at that time was horrible, was the SARS epidemic. It was horrible. I mean, a lot of people passed away, but we didn't know what was coming 20 years later. Then, of course, we had the whole democracy movement in 2014 and 2019, and then ending with COVID in 2020 to 2022. So these milestones have affected my personal life and my family's life and my friends' life much more than the actual handover, which was quite anonymous. I mean, there was a change of flags and, of course, a change of administration. But as an entrepreneur at that time and somebody living here, I was not so much affected by, and still not by the handover. Much more
the fun thing you told me off camera is that, because to me, I thought I didn't really know about the Asia crisis.
Financial crisis. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
What happened is, like, I thought that people jump off the flag, because we heard a lot of things that, people jump off their flag, they became broke, etc. After the handover, there was a complete panic. It's also the time, like, a lot of Chinese from Hong Kong flew to Canada, England, Australia, etc. And then what you were telling me actually a bit before is that actually it wasn't really the handover.
It coincided, right? Both happened in July 1997. But the financial crisis, I remember, like the real estate market, like, lost, I don't know, 65%. People literally lost everything overnight. I remember reading articles of Thai billionaires selling satays in the street the next day because they had nothing left. And that leads me to something that's really impressive here in Hong Kong, I think, is the resilience of the people and the city to be able to absorb these huge shocks and just, fall down, stand up and continue and become stronger after. And that's really something that's impressive. And when you work here and you're an entrepreneur, you're surrounded by people who say, okay, never mind, let's just go for it. And I don't think there are many places in the world like that.
Yeah, actually, as soon as you have been here a few years, you start to see that, whatever, as I mean, that we'll get through it. And you can see I mean, a lot of people that left the city during COVID and after the protest were actually, they're not the people that stay here for 15, 20, 30 years. No, a lot of them, they were just here for a few years. They thought it was the end of Hong Kong. And but the one that have been here for a while, that just one more. No,
and I never asked myself, should I leave now because of what happened? Same with COVID.
I did, but just because I refused the vaccine, I had no life.
Vaccine is that's a personal choice, right? But I never thought, okay, that's the end of Hong Kong, or that's the end for me in Hong Kong. So I'm part of the tissue here. I feel like, and by the way, I was talking earlier about the small anecdote, and I looked it up because I said, God, 35 years is actually a pretty long time. I lived much longer here than in my own country, Belgium, and I was thinking, like, actually, how many people lived for 35 years in Hong Kong? So I went to look up the stats, population stats of Hong Kong, and actually there are about 3 million people who are 35 or less. So actually, I've been here longer than 3 million Hong Kong residents. Yeah, so it's today we're about 7.5 million here. So yeah, it's been, and I have no plan to leave. It's my home basically. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but an interesting one. And I was talking about it the other day too, and I had the chance also to spend some time recently in Singapore, which is often compared to Hong Kong. Who is better? Who is richer? Who is whatever? And I won't go into that. It's a healthy competition, I think. But what struck me is after spending like 4 or 5 months in Singapore, the first time in my life where I actually lived there, and coming back here, is the difference in atmosphere. Like coming off the plane in Hong Kong, landing, coming from Singapore, I really felt like the electricity in the air here, like this kind of dynamism that you have here that I don't find in Singapore. It's very different on that level. Of course, Singapore has plenty other very positive sides. I'm not trying to, but that's really typical of Hong Kong for me, is this resilience, and secondly this drive, never stop, constantly trying to. There is no social net, so you have to do it by yourself. Figure it out.
I felt the same. I felt the energy coming back. If I put a date on it, it was around, I would say, February, March 2023. That's when I was like, okay, Hong Kong is back. Before that, I have to admit, during COVID, it was.
Well, I came back. I spent 2 years in China because of COVID. I was stuck because, one country, two systems. There was still a border in between, so it was difficult to go back and forth. And I came back after having spent like 6, 7, 8 months in China, and I was shocked. But we were still in COVID. It was like May, June 2022. So the masks were still on, and I said, God, what happened to Hong Kong? I had the impression that everybody was down, and we were down actually. I mean, COVID was there. As soon as our chief exec said on the radio, tomorrow you can take off the masks, the next day it's as if town was back. It was impressive, and we're still there now.
Although things have changed, to be completely honest. I have been to last week to Heritage 1888. And you know what I'm talking about? Like, these shopping mall next to the old Kazan, next to the peninsula. It was just so dead. Every single shop was closed there. But I think it's also a problem of the landlord. Most likely the guy didn't want to go down, and then all the big brand left. So it was a bit weird to see this masterpiece of Hong Kong, because I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Completely
good
empty.
Job there.
The restaurants are still open inside, but all the shops, all closed. So I think the tourism is still taking a hit. I think also, like, if you see Lokat Road, just next street, it has changed a lot. I think this is like one of the biggest changes. Maybe you may have seen there, because I don't know if you used to go to Lokat Road before. Not to the girly bars, no, but to the good one in the middle. But you can really see that it's really changing. The whole street is almost disappearing. But other than that, I mean, I think that the business seems to be back. The energy is there.
The energy is there for sure, and it will never go, I think.
Actually, I love the big companies that left Hong Kong during crisis. Apparently they're coming back now.
That's a good sign.
I think Singapore gained quite a few marked quite a few score there.
Yeah, I
during
think at the end
the.
of COVID, I think there was people were starting to get impatient,
Yeah.
and some said, and I think the business community really went to talk to the politicians, saying we've got to do something because we cannot remain cut off from the rest of the world. And some people then moved to Singapore, maybe to Tokyo or elsewhere. But I think many of those
Some
will
are
be
coming
coming back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some headquarter moved to Singapore, now they want to come back. You know, some already did come back. Some find it nice there because let's be honest,
Yeah.
Singapore is amazing as well.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. Okay, so if we want to summarize that, and then we want to, you know, want to put a word on it, or maybe a small explanation, like how would you describe Hong Kong to its core? Like what is Hong Kong? What is the soul of Hong Kong after 35 years here?
Yeah, I think it's just a couple of words that are already or buzzwords that I mentioned earlier. The first one is this resilience of the city. There were so many, you know, big shocks, big hits, and so on, and each time you look at it a couple of weeks, months, or years later, and it's as if nothing happened. People just stand up and continue, and for that it's quite funny because we're both from Belgium, and Hong Kong has actually for me a lot of similarities with Belgium. It's two small countries. We exist more by what's happening around us.
Territories for Hong Kong.
Yeah, country. I mean, yeah, territories. We used to be a territory too for a long time, and we exist more by what's happening and who is around us. Like for Hong Kong, it's China, the rest of the world. For Belgium, the surrounding countries, and so on. We're a mix of languages, cultures, but what's typical for Hong Kong compared to Belgium is this really resilience. I think that's really for me the key word. And for entrepreneurs that's fantastic. The other one, I'm thinking of it now, talking about entrepreneurship, is the fast-paced activity here. Things go fast, things can be done quickly. You don't have a heavy bureaucracy, long waiting time. People have this, you know, constantly on their phone, which sometimes for work-life balance is not always ideal, but you know that you can get answers and action quickly here.
And there is also a lot of opportunities to network and mingle and get things done, actually.
And for that, I'm really impressed. Also, I'm talking about bureaucracy, but I saw, and I was in the queues at the immigration, at the transport department, and so on in the late 80s, early 90s. Those were not pleasant days. They were long waiting time. You go today, it's like you go in, half an hour later, you're out. I mean, the progress on that level also is impressive. So good place to be.
Not sure if I should get there, but okay. Let's try to make a small anecdote with the immigration. When I received my PR, you know, so PR is the permanent residency of Hong Kong when you stay 7 years here. So when I received my PR, I went to the immigration, which normally is, as you said, like super efficient, etc.
Today is super efficient.
I waited for 3 hours. And then I'm like, gosh, when are they calling me? You know, and I'm just there waiting. And then there's this guy that they keep calling. Laura Pata Clody. And I was like, who's this idiot? Why he just doesn't go there? You know, and I just wait. And after it's like,
it was you.
Wait a minute. Laura Pata Clody. Laurent Patrick Claude Timmermans. Oh shit, it's me. You know?
So I've been calling you for 3 hours.
They have been calling me for 3 hours. No, and then I realized, it's me. So I went and picked up my car. Anyway, but yeah, normally it's super efficient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Resilience and efficiency.
Resilience, efficiency. Now you mentioned Belgium. Actually, is not one of the questions we were thinking to go through, but it just make me think of that. Do you think this resilience is cultural, or is just the environment, the way Hong Kong is set up, the way it's organized?
I think probably a mix of both. But in Hong Kong, of course, when you see how Hong Kong started and who are the people who arrived here and what they did, I think they learned it. They learned a lot by doing. And I think it's a situation in which they were that was really difficult. Many coming from China with nothing, having to build everything, their livelihood, feed their family, grow their businesses under British rule, which was not always easy, I guess. And so I think it's probably in the genes, but a big part is also learned by doing. And hopefully they're going to continue to pass it from generation to generation. Yeah.
Okay, so well, you're interesting many different ways. No, one of them is the fact you have been here a long time, so it was interesting to hear your perspective. The other thing is that you actually developed a really successful business here in your early days. So can you tell us more about your entrepreneurship journey in Hong
Yeah,
Kong
sure.
and
And
how it went?
it's a bit like Hong Kong. I arrived here actually by coincidence. I wanted to work outside of Belgium. Hong Kong was offered as an option, and I took it. It was actually a decision that I had to take in 30 seconds in an HR meeting back in Belgium. I arrived here, and I worked for a big Belgian multinational, Petrofina, oil and chemicals. And what was really interesting, I was traveling around the Asia Pacific area. And after that, I had to go back to Brussels after 2 years, and I realized that I was not the corporate type. My character is not meant to work in a big corporation, and I'm not attracted by big corporations. So it was and I said, okay, but what then? Okay, then I'll become an entrepreneur. So it was not like a dream that I had. I became an entrepreneur. I said, okay, let's start a company. So I did everything backwards. I didn't have a brilliant idea, and I said, I have to go and show it to the world. I said, okay, I'll start a company, and then I'll think what I will do. And in the end, after a year or two, we started to run really well, and after 7-8 years we had 150 people in 6-7 offices in China, Hong Kong, US,
And what you were
Belgium,
doing
Spain,
exactly?
France, and we did several things in the beginning, but we ended up being really good at, I think so, because we existed for a while, at designing, developing new products, sometimes really new, like not inventions, but like really novelties, other times just improving what was existing, improving either in performance or in decreasing prices. So we had designers, engineers, we developed them on paper, and then we subcontracted the production in China, of course, the factory of the world, and we shipped mainly to Western Europe and also to the US. And did that for a number of years, and then, like I was saying earlier, we were affected also by we didn't talk about those, but the financial crisis of 2008. So we had to kind of reinvent ourselves, thanks Hong Kong, because they basically taught us how to do, reinvented ourselves. And so it was a really interesting, an interesting period for about 25 over years. That ended in 2017, and then I worked, and I worked for other companies, and I managed, among others, a watch factory in the south of China, which was really quite fascinating too, because it was during the COVID period also. And now I'm restarting a entrepreneurial journey, but more in the direction of sharing my past experience, or putting my past experience at the service of SMEs who then hire me as either like part-time manager, consultant, or advisor, a bit a mix of those. And what I love to do is enter a small company and see what I can try to improve on the productivity side, on the human side, and so that's a new activity for me. So I'm literally starting the second half of my professional journey, and that's where I am today.
Well, I wish you all the best on that one.
Thank you.
But by the way, like you from your entrepreneurial journey and what you are doing now, like if you had to give maybe one or three, even, if you have three of your on top of your head, like one, two, three advice to young entrepreneurs or of one entrepreneur, that want to start a business, like what would that be?
I have several, and they're all linked to my mistakes, things that you tend to remember more, where you fell down, stood up again, and look back to see what actually happened. And for me, the biggest mistake that I made and that's a more long-term one, is I thought I would be able to do it by myself. And often we are, but we can go so much faster or better by being surrounded by some senior board members, advisors, friends, whatever. And that's my big regret, is to never have looked for and appointed a a man or a woman who was like 15, 20 years older than me on our board to now and then say, Frederick, I would really think about this, or maybe you should consider something else, or let me show you. And I never did that. When you're young, you have a super big ego, and
I was
and
about
you think,
to tell you, would you have listened to that person back then?
and I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I would have if I had the idea of appointing somebody, but I never had it because I thought I could do it myself. And of course, it's much more costly to learn from your mistakes than to learn from some good advice. And that's probably the biggest one. And as the first thing that I would, and I would love to do that for young entrepreneurs today, to say, just keep my number, call me now and then. And if you want me to look at something, if I can help you just with the experience. I have only one advantage compared to a 22-year-old entrepreneur who's starting today. Only one.
You felt more?
The number of years that I lived. That's the only thing. Brain-wise, no difference. But I have experience, so I saw things, and I saw things where it worked well, and I saw other things where I fell down, and I said, don't go and reinvent the wheel. Don't go and fall down where I fell down, if I can show you how to avoid it. And that's probably really the biggest one. One that I did where I'm happy I did, and that's also something that I'd love to share with as many people as possible, is whenever you hire someone, hire somebody who's much better than you in that particular field. Because if I'm, take any example, if I'm hiring somebody who's going to manage my shipping department, but I know more about shipping procedures, the shipping market, whatever, than the person I interview, there's no point in interviewing, because I want to learn from the people who I would hire, or I want to hire. And the third thing is, and that's just general, is that don't forget that whatever company you are, even if you have patents, inventions, huge real estate properties or whatever, the only thing that matters in a company are the people. Is the people who make your company succeed or not. And if you don't work well as a team, and if they don't have a shared vision and adhere to processes and so on, it won't work. The people are in the middle of everything. And that's what I enjoy doing today, is interacting with people and say how can we move forward.
Well, I think that could be the world of the end,
Okay.
I could conclude there.
People,
so
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a nice
part
one.
of my motto. Yeah.
So, Frederick, thanks for coming. Thanks for your sharing and all this information on both Hong Kong and entrepreneurship. Well, I wish you all the best for the new venture.
Thank you.
Hopefully some young people will listen to you.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, and avoid mistakes. So, well, if one of you is one of those young people, don't hesitate to
just give me a call.
To give a call. I will leave your
it.
details in the description below.
Okay, thank you so much for the conversation. It's really good fun to be able to now and then look back at what happened like 35 years ago and
introspect.
Where am I? Like a flashback. So that was fun talking about it.
Great. Thank you. So I see you in the next one then. And thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.